Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and editors, people who are putting stuff out that we need to know about. And you get to kind of hear directly from them to get the inside report. In our second segments, we do arts and culture. And today and tonight, we're going to be talking with some people on City Island who have had a wonderful, important music cafe that they are now converting to include theatrical performances. So that'll be interesting. But right now, our buddy David Brand is with us. He's a reporter covering housing for Gothamist and WNYC. David, it's always great to have you.
It's always great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
And I guess, unfortunately, having said that, unfortunately, you have a piece that talks about the median price of homes in the Bronx's Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, saying that they are now have had the highest increase in prices in the city. And that would be a curious thing because one would think it's not the most lucrative neighborhood in the city. And I guess we'll start here. Number one, how'd you find out about it? And number two, why Kingsbridge and Fordham Heights to have the prices skyrocketing?
Every year, the Association for Neighborhood Housing and Development, ANHD, it's a group made up of affordable housing developers. They advocate for more affordable housing and tenant protections. They put out what they call their housing risk chart. And it's a lot of factors that foreshadow or show displacement, like rising evictions, rising violations in apartment buildings. And one of the things that they also highlight is rising home prices. Now, across the city, just like across the country, home prices are going up, but in certain Bronx neighborhoods, they're going up really exponentially and higher, faster than anywhere else in the city. And you said it right at the beginning, the two neighborhoods they really honed in on, Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, where median home sale prices went up by 36% over the past 2 years. And that's higher than anywhere else in the city,
Incredible.
including kind of notoriously gentrifying neighborhoods like Williamsburg in Brooklyn or Bedford-Stuyvesant. So,
Right.
thinking Bedford
So
Park could be the
these
new
are homes.
Bedford-Stuyvesant.
These are homes, private houses, as opposed to, let's say, if you wanted to get an apartment, right?
Yeah, it includes like single family homes, 2-family homes, 3-family homes, pretty much every type of home that's not a condo or a co-op.
So these are Bronx neighborhoods are also among the city's lowest income areas. And one would wonder why that's the case. And does that mean we're now open? I mean, you mentioned places that have gentrified. Does that mean we're now potentially opening new neighborhoods to this concept of local people being priced out?
I think that's the concern. I mean, I think it's
Mm,
definitely happening. You talk to people like young professionals who grew up in some of these neighborhoods, want to settle there permanently, want to buy property, and are having a tough time. I think we don't quite know the reasons right now. And I think this is going to lead to some more deeper reporting that I'd like to do. And so, any listeners who live in those areas who are experiencing this, especially if people trying to buy a home, please reach out to me. Because, the fear is that there's real estate speculation, home flipping, all cash buyers,
right.
investors who are competing with like families that just want to buy a place to live.
So the process, excuse me, the process that could lead to this is really, and I'm just speculating here, which is a funny word to use. The the process would be that somebody has a home, and then somebody makes them an offer, for more money than they have seen in their pocket in a long time, and $300,000, $400,000, and they buy it, and then all of a sudden maybe they do a fix up, and now they've sold it to somebody who's has more money. Those people move in, and all of a sudden the people in the local community don't have places to live. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm th-
basically, and we've seen it a lot in northern Brooklyn. That's like what happened in East New York in particular,
Mhm.
which has a lot of kind of like low-rise housing stock, somewhat different than those neighborhoods in the Bronx, but it has been common throughout the city. And so is that
Mhm.
happening there? It could be, yeah.
I don't know how well you know the neighborhoods, but let's just say if you go right where the Kingsbridge Armory is, and you go south toward Fordham Road, there's neighborhoods filled with private homes there,
Mhm.
and I could see that very process taking place. What gets in the way of something like this that stops this from happening? Does it have to be legislation of some kind? Do you, you know, I mean, it's the plain term is blockbusting, and that's been going on for generations. So, what if there are elected officials like Karina Sanchez, who's isn't she the chair of the housing
Mhm.
committee in the city council, and the council member from that district? What does she do? What can she do to prevent this? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think it's pretty complicated, and so there are proposals at the state level right now for what they call a flip tax, which would prevent like institutional investors from buying a property and then reselling it within 6 months without paying an additional tax, or
Ah,
and that's so it's like kind of a graduated scale for
but
what that
that
tax would
would,
be. It's
yeah,
that's
that
kind of that's a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that has the momentum to pass yet. But I think other ways to like protect homeowners who are at risk of foreclosure or who have owe back taxes, back property taxes, and are
mhm.
thinking of just kind of selling for lower than the value of the property just because they have a lot of financial problems. So, more attorneys, more resources for homeowners in those situations are probably the way to avoid kind of the fast sales that don't capture the value, the true value
Right.
of the property, and then the reselling.
So we have something else that we can talk about. Is there anything else you want to say about this that I haven't asked you about? Because it's such an important thing. Because if it happens in one neighborhood, it could happen in another. I mean, it grows, and somehow the Bronx is always preyed upon in these circumstances. So, any last words about this?
Well, we're seeing the similar kind of exponential rise in prices in University Heights, Fordham,
Ah,
Belmont, East Tremont. So it's not just Kingsbridge Heights and Bedford Park, but kind of throughout the Bronx. And I think we're still kind of in the early stages of reporting here. So would love to hear from residents of those areas about what you're seeing, what you're experiencing.
and so we can put your email up on the screen, but it's, let's see if I know it by heart, dbrand at nypublicradio.org. And
Yes.
please reach out if you have questions, or if you have some knowledge, or you've been approached by maybe real estate or somebody else. I think it would be useful, and you've got a great reporter here who wants to work on it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, which is in a way a much larger question, I was thinking about, so you think you need affordable housing, huh? Um, the governor wanted to put 800,000 homes out there, and that was essentially shot down in the last budget. But we have a migrant problem, and the mayor is at his wits' end.
Mm.
You were telling me beforehand that some of this actually started here in our home borough of the BX.
I think this issue of rising number of migrants coming to New York City in need of emergency shelter was first diagnosed in the Bronx because about a year ago, people who lived around the PATH intake shelter for families who needed to go into homeless shelters first started noticing a lot of people coming who were newly arrived immigrants, especially from Venezuela. And that was something over at City Limits when I was reporting there that we had first started hearing, and then became something that the Adams administration, Mayor Adams, realized, oh, this is something's going on here. We're seeing more newly arriving immigrants entering homeless shelters than we've seen before. And then, over the past year, we've seen this issue continue to grow, where we're at the point where they have tapped dozens of hotels. They've set up tent encampments. They've used a cruise terminal in Brooklyn to house people, and now they're thinking of using school gymnasiums or even an empty jail on Rikers Island to house people. So this has become a huge issue in New York
And
City.
and I feel for everybody involved. Obviously, for the migrants who are coming here with hope, and they've had tremendous sacrifices to get here. But I feel for the mayor. It's like, hey, Mr. Mayor, we're going to add 45,000 people now, 60,000 people, and it's not going to be any less. And we're just going to send them to you, and you got to figure it out. But I also feel that, I understand. Okay, so we found a school gym we're going to house them in, but I understand what parents are saying. I understand the sympathy of people in other counties, like Rockland County has reacted very negatively to the notion of using hotels up there, and so, boy, I don't really know how to solve this. I mean, what are your thoughts about what could work? Because everybody and anybody says, look, we don't want to just go adding 500 people sleeping in our gymnasium where our
Yeah.
kids go to school. I get it.
It's a tough situation. New York City for centuries has been a city of immigrants and has absorbed huge numbers of people from all across the world. Like more than a third of the current population of the city is foreign born. So, there's not a surprise that people are coming to New York City. What's different here is that a lot of the people coming don't have existing community ties or family ties. So they need to temporarily use city services like homeless shelters more than probably they have in the past. Um, Tough spot for the city. It is a tough situation for the Adams administration to try to house so many new people.
Right.
And that's why he's been calling on the Biden administration and Congress to really give more support to the city and more money and more maybe logistical support as well.
So I have to agree with you that is the case. We mentioned this together before we went on the air, but getting the White House angry at you might not be the best way to make that happen either, which is, of course, apparently what's going on. The last thing I just want to mention, which is a matter of fact, that the whole idea that the city had taken homeless veterans out of hotels in Rockland County turned out to be phony. That
Yeah,
didn't
it's a
happen.
hoax. Yeah, that's
It's a
unfortunate
hoax.
because the New York Post can do a splashy front page story
Yeah,
about
but it
this
wasn't
kind of,
true.
and then it turns out. So I don't know if finding out it wasn't true, it ends up having the same reach. So it's good you say it
We're
on your show, so everyone who's heard
we're
that can
just trying to
find out that
tell it
was
like it
fake.
is.
Yeah,
Listen, David Brand, we got nothing if we don't have you. And people
thanks,
reach
Gary.
out to David. Thank you for your time this evening. And, we'll see you around again. I'm sure all these stories will keep getting bigger and we
Definitely.
will keep reaching out to say, hey, David, come on the show. We'll
Love to
see you
do it.
around town. Okay.
Thanks a lot,
We're
Gary.
going to take a short break. And when we come back, as I said, we're going to visit on City Island with a wonderful, used to be a music hall. Now it's got something more going on. We'll be right back.
STEM is everywhere, like here, behind the scenes of The Walking Dead.
When we break down clothes, we tumble it with trisodium phosphate, rock salt, and dish detergent.
We stitched together images of our model and created a 3D set that could be walked through in a VR headset.
We're able to turn 12 walkers into 1,000 walker hordes.
STEM can create new worlds on and off the screen. What will you make with STEM? Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
We all know what it's like to feel alone. But it just takes one new connection.
Want to get out of here?
To empower many.
This is unbelievable.
It doesn't take a superhero to bring forces together. We all have the power to reach out.
Let's go!
And help someone feel like they belong.
Pretty cool, huh?
We are stronger together.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
All right, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We thank David Brand for his very informed work, which helps enlighten us all. We're going to enlighten us in a different way. One of the most wonderful places in the Bronx, all the way out there on City Island. You used to know it as the Starving Artist Cafe, but it is now The Artist. And The Artist is my longtime buddy, Elliot Glick. Nice to have you with us, Elliot.
Hi.
Elliot, you were just telling me, let's really recount how old we are, that more than 2 decades ago, your first interview with me was about this location on City Island Avenue, and it was a jewelry shop. I wish I could remember that far back.
Jewelry shop. I made one of a kind jewelry pieces. My original trade was jeweler on 47.
Wow.
And I opened my own shop, and everybody told me, your walls look naked, because jewelry is very small. So they all brought in their paintings.
Right. And of course, City Island is one of the most important artist communities in our borough. But so now we're 26 years on City Island, but you're undergoing a transformation. It has been, and you were just saying, it's been nominated as one of the best music halls in the Bronx. So let's talk about what it has been as a music hall, and then how we're converting it to a performance space for theater.
Well, we built a stage here. We moved the kitchen to the back and built the stage where the kitchen used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I said, this is a black box theater. This is, exactly what I secretly wanted. And
wait, just consciously secretly wanted, or all of a sudden it was a revelation and you were like, you know what, that's what I secretly wanted?
Well, it was both, but
Okay.
I was writing a play, and then I thought, wow, I'll put it on here. And I haven't done that yet, but I did cast it now. So, but we've had quite a few theater performances here already, and both of them were one-woman shows, and they have done it multiple times here.
Mm-hmm. So I've got the list of them. Let's see, Once a Boy was one of them, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then the other was Runaway Princess. I have the A Hopeful Tale of Heroin, Hooking, and Happiness, which is an interesting perspective.
Last night.
Oh, it was last night. Okay, and Velvet Determination, which is another, which is coming up on June 10th and 11th, apparently.
Yes, a repeat performance by Papa Man.
How does it play? Are you bad pun there? How does it play? Are you satisfied with the way it looks in the house, and are people receptive to it?
I'm thrilled and delighted.
Really? Now, and why is that?
Not usually both.
Usually thrilled and not quite delighted. Okay.
Yeah, but I was, because I have stage lighting. I don't want to turn the camera around because I'll never get it quite right again.
All right.
I put up stage lighting, and not just for the music shows, but it works great for the theater productions, and have a mixing board for the lights and for the sound.
Wow. And Elliot, it's amazing how one thing you do informs the next. So, I'm sure all you learned all these years about putting on shows, and I don't even want to count how many performers you've had, and funky everybody get up and play nights, and all the things that you've done. And now you have a different view of the same space. I think that it's a beautiful process, frankly.
It's a journey,
Okay.
It's a journey. You go into business, and it's not a job. It's a life, and in that way, and you grow with it, So I mean, I've learned different things, like how to do sound, and this past weekend I did the lights, which is a little stressful, but
no, I did get a flyer that said on Saturday the 27th, you're going to be playing. Are you doing music? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, I'm going to do music.
And original music, covers, what are you doing?
Mostly original.
Mm-hmm.
Some covers. I always stick a Dylan song in somewhere, and because he said something about everything in the whole world,
I remember what Bill Graham used to say about the Fillmore East. He said, It's my candy store, and I can play with a microphone anytime I want. So that's one thing. Now let's just talk about the plays. Now you've written 2 plays, Superman and Primitive Angel.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us just something? Let's just talk about the creative process that made you say, hey, after playing music and being a jewelry maker, I want to be a playwright. Just talk to me a little bit about that.
I had done theater many years ago. Not that first I did Jesus Christ Superstar, was Jesus twice.
Wait, when you say you did it, you performed in it?
Yeah, in amateur theater, you know, and
I could see you as Jesus Christ.
And it ended badly for him, but it was. but yeah, I did it with a CYO up in Monroe, New York.
Okay.
And I fell in love with doing that stuff. And that same director called me up and said, we're doing it with a youth group in Kingsbridge Heights in the Bronx. And I happened to be living back in the Bronx at that time.
Well, Kingsbridge Heights, like at the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, something like that?
Yeah, near the old police station was.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And I think it was a former nun that was running the youth center.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name, and
That's
sorry.
okay.
But it was 1979, you know.
Wow. And so that kind of inspired the notion, and you have been crafting these 2 productions for.
Yeah, I wrote one when I was in Monroe, and a theater group did put it on. And after the hives went away, you know, from the stress of that, I 30 years later wrote another one. And so Primitive Angel is really kind of about this place and me, you know, having to come to realize that there are all different ways to consider yourself
the artist.
Yeah, and successful at it. And
and I'm just going to tell you on a personal note, what I'm going through now with my own work, you have just helped inform that. I appreciate that.
There are ways to look at it, and I didn't see those ways. And I was feeling like, you know, I'm spinning my wheels here. I'm not getting anywhere with my own stuff. And a friend of mine that actually the called Brooklyn on Broadway. And I grew up with him, and in fact, he taught me to play guitar back in high school. And he said to me, "What are you, crazy? Look at your place. You just built this stage. Why aren't you using it?"
Wow.
And he said, "You have succeeded." He said, "We've all chased the dream." He said, "But it slips away from you, you know."
But you know, this goes back to what I said a few moments ago. It's amazing how everything kind of informs. If you're a creative person and your mind is open, everything informs the next step.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you look backwards, there's a trail.
But you don't want to look at that trail. You move on and get to the next step. So here's a very difficult question. What do we need to do to push you to make this thing happen? Because I don't want you to keep talking about it. We want to say that Elliot, you know, I want to be there opening night, and Elliot's play, one of those 2 plays is we're going to see.
I cast it. I have to square it with DC Comics.
Oh, Superman! Yeah, they probably own that.
And they weren't that nice to the 2 guys that originally wrote it. You know, so
that's number 1.
Yeah, I have to square it with them, and I'm not. I mean, I'm not even thinking about money. I'm thinking about art. You know.
Yes.
And doing it.
Well, that's why you were the starving artist.
Yes.
I'm sorry, and I say that with tremendous affection. What's that?
Hoping it would change my luck.
Well, you know, what I was going to tell you beforehand, I said I was going to say it on the show. I never liked the idea of starving artist because on one hand, it was true because a lot of the performers, you know, they're not making a lot of money. On the other hand, we want to raise it up. And so now we're called The Artist on City Island. And
we have raised it up.
And so now let's see. I got a whole. There's all kinds of performances coming up aside from you on the 27th. What else is coming up that you want to boast about at the artist?
This Friday is open mic. So
Okay, let's be clear. We're recording it Monday. The program will air Thursday, so it actually would be tomorrow is open mic.
Okay.
Because it's going to air Thursday evening at 6:00. So that's tomorrow is open mic, and then who performs on open mic? Everybody.
Everybody.
Do you draw audience only from City Island? Do you get people who come from other places? And then the same thing on open mic nights. Do you get people exclusively from City Island or people from the Bronx? I mean, I'm just curious about what the draw is.
I've had people come here from Brooklyn.
Really?
Wherever that is. And
Yeah, because they know what's good and where it's good, and they want a nice dinner as well.
everybody is looking to have an audience, and we're a listening room, and that's a plus.
Listening room and also a place for people to get to. It's just a very, very comfortable place. Let's also talk about where you are. So, City Island, it's like one way this way and one way this way for people visiting. I guess about halfway down the island, a little past the middle.
About a mile in. The island's a mile and a half. I'm about a mile in.
Okay.
A block past a little park in the middle, Hawkins Park.
Right.
And I'm in the between Carroll and Schofield Street.
Just keep driving. Look to the right. After you, I mean, I could tell you exactly where it is, but you'll
warning, and it says the artist on the top.
The artist. Now you've already changed the ordering. Yes. And listen, get out there on City Island. Have yourself a bite to eat. Stop and see my friend Ron Turner before you go in and hang out with Elliot. I mean, we're all working together, and that's how we're going to do it, right?
He encouraged me to open all those years ago.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, listen, you needed a little kick in the pants, and you got it, and that's okay. Listen, Elliot, it's just a thrill to always talk to you and have you, and it's really a thrill to really talk about a new look at the artist and new art in the Bronx, new performance in the Bronx. I tell people all the time, we invented everything. So come here and share it because, it's all about the roots. And that's what we're about.
I tell you the truth, why I changed the name.
Go ahead. That's going to be the last thing. Do it quick. We got to lose it.
I got tired of all the jokes. I put on a couple of pounds and
all right. Well, you have been, and you always will be the artist. And now your place of business reflects that. And we love what you do and keep doing it. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that because that's what you're going to do. So we'll see you around town. Thank you so much. It is Elliot Glick at The Artist. And that will do it for the Bronx Buzz. We've had a really fun show, an interesting show. First segment, we took care of business. And the second segment, we took care of different kind of business. And you know what I always say, and it's true. We'll see you next week. Good night.